I won't say too much about Daisy's story. It's interesting, it's fascinating, and she's obviously here to talk to you about that. I'm very, very pleased that she's able to be here today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Daisy Henson to you. Thank you very much.
Go Daisy, go Daisy.
Go Daisy, go Daisy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so up myself that I thought there'd be a thing where I could, so I'll just hold it, it's fine. I'm Daisy, as they have just introduced me, and I'm 20. My story, I'm apologising in advance, is quite complicated and quite long and apparently interesting. So basically, to start with, I've been seeing people about my mental health from a very young age, and none of them have been very helpful until now. And I saw my GP, and we just used to talk, and I was very ill and very quiet, and I didn't have a life. I was hated at school, basically. I was so annoying. I had so many rules that I had to follow that no one wanted to be my friend, and I was very, very unhappy. And then I kind of just sort of stopped talking about it, so I assumed everything was fine. I never once got a diagnosis when I was that young. I was always talked about having anxiety, and I had panic attacks from a very, very young age. And I remember sitting in my year 3 classroom thinking I was going to die, but actually what I was doing was having a panic attack, and no one knew what to do to help me because they thought, oh, there's something ill, that you're ill. I got a medical diagnosis instead every time I said I didn't feel right. So it just kind of perpetuated any issue that I had. Briefly just say what I've been diagnosed with, many things. I've had a diagnosis of general anxiety, severe anxiety, depression, which was wrong, and eating disorder. I've had anorexia and OCD and emetophobia. So quite a few things to have to deal with. I went to CAMS when I was, I think, 15, which is the child services, and they were shocking. It was just awful. I had an emergency appointment because I had kind of collapsed in a heap of anxiety one day, and I'd given up, and I'd stopped eating, and everything was just horrendous. And when we went in to go and say what was wrong with me, when we said emetophobia, they were like, "What's that? Are you sure you're just not, hiding something?" And actually, I think you're bulimic. I got told that I was bulimic quite a lot, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm not, because I really want to be sick. And every time they say that, I get anxious, so they thought maybe I was trying to cover it up, or trying to cover up a lie, and actually I was getting anxious because they kept on saying vomit to me. And then I had a nurse, I had a CBT nurse, and she was lovely, like a lovely woman, but bless her, couldn't do anything. And we were supposed to be doing CBT, but yeah, the thing is, I learned how to do ribbon breathing from when I was about 6, and so I spent a good few sessions with her when I was older, learning about how to control my breath. And I was like, woman, I can do this. I have learned, and it was all about having to kind of see why I was being anxious. They were actually just, they didn't tell me anything I didn't know already, and also the fact that I had to explain what emetophobia was every time I met a new consultant, and having them say, well, actually, I don't really know what that is. We don't have any specialists. We don't really deal with phobias, and kind of having someone say that the phobia wasn't a problem and that it was actually just anxiety, and I had focused it on one thing. I had a shocking, again, psychiatrist at CAMS who just slapped me on medication, I had fluoxetine, which made me depressed, even though I wasn't taking it for depression. I was supposedly taking it for anxiety, but one time he asked me, why did I prescribe you this again? What was it for? And I was like, well, for anxiety. And he goes, no, it's for depression because you're suicidal. And I was like, well, I'm suicidal now because you're not listening to me. And then I tried to get on a different drug. Then he tried to give me citalopram. Then he gave me melatonin for sleep. Then I had, I think I had promethazine as well. I had just basically any drugs that they could think of. They were like, have it. He also I'm trying to like curb my language, trying to describe this man. Well, he was a bit of a dick. But, my parents and I have had a lot of conversations about him. We were going to take action, kind of like legal action for this man, because he misdiagnosed me so many times, and he tried to convince my parents that I had an eating disorder and started telling me all about calories and weight, and they weighed me a lot because I was losing weight from being so terrified of eating. And then when they finally got me to start gaining weight, I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I don't want to gain weight anymore. So then the anorexia developed, and I got worse and worse and worse. And I also started lying even more. But my last anecdote about my shocking psychiatrist was one time when I met him, I was on my own, and my parents went in the room, which apparently shouldn't have happened. And he said, can you tell me a list of the foods that you're scared of? And so I listed every food under the sun, apart from like, I think it was an orange or something, and or cucumber, I can't remember. And he was like, well, Daisy, let's just face it, you need to eat a potato and just get over it. And I was like, potatoes scary, man. No. Anyway, that was him. That was my experience with CAMS, and it's still a sore spot in our house. I was also referred to FEDS, which were the Family Eating Disorder Services, where I used to have these two rather large ladies come and weigh me and tell me to eat some nuts. But bless, they were okay. They were nice to me. I just used to lie there and be like, yeah, sure, I want to gain weight. Yeah, I love food. Like, woo. I had family therapy as well, and that was just me lying to my parents and my therapist saying, I just want everyone to be happy. Like, I just want everyone to be happy, because me and my mum hadn't talked for about 6 months, which was not pleasant when I was living in the same house as her and trying to be an A-level student. And so I kind of faked my way through that therapy, got myself discharged at a healthy weight, but I was not. I was still incredibly ill. Literally about 2 weeks after I was discharged, I went, there's no one watching me anymore, I can go crazy. And I relapsed. I had a huge relapse and ended up in crisis, and I was in A&E, not eating or drinking, kind of dying. And but I didn't really care, and I'd do this thing where my parents would try and pick me up to feed me, and I'd just go like flop, and they couldn't pick me up. So I didn't have any kind of control anymore over my head. I was just like, nah, this is it, I'm just gonna die. So I saw SEDCAS from my CMHT mental health team, and SEDCAS were the Severe Eating Disorders and Consultation Advice, or something, I don't know. They're called something different now, was SEDS. And they met me and went, you need to go to hospital. So that then was my first admission to hospital at an inpatient ward for eating disorders. I went to Bethlehem Rural Hospital, which I must say, like, is bedlam, like it is actually the bedlam. And I went in, and I actually met Claire, who I'm with today, and she told me that she hated me when I came because I was so up myself, and I was like, I'm not ill, like, I don't have anorexia, like, what are you, these people are so crazy, ah! And little did I know that that was me, and I basically just ate to leave, and I refused to gain weight past a certain point, and I was telling everyone that I was healthy and that everything was fine, and so I also wasn't participating in my therapy very well, because I liked my therapist, but I was a bit like, well, you can make me do exposure, but I'm never going to do it when you're not here. And I had to do lots of horribly things, and she was lovely, my therapist, and I think she kind of knew that I wasn't really trying, so I only had a few sessions with her, and then they were like, bye, and I was discharged. Back to my CMHT with SEDCAS, and I also got a new psychologist who, bless, also didn't know what emetophobia was. And she looked up David Veal, and I actually tried to see David Veal before, but got told that I was too sick and that he couldn't help me, and then I should basically just live with being ill for the rest of my life. And so she looked up lots of things, and we spent a good few sessions just talking about the word vomit, and then looking at pictures of cartoons of fake vomit, and then pictures of fake vomit that looked real, and then a picture of a toilet, and then a picture of someone who looked like they could have been sick. And I was like, woman, just no! Because I had already briefly looked at Thrive, but I'd actually been to see Rob, and I kind of was like, yeah, like, I really want to get better, but I didn't at the time. And so I knew that my phobia wasn't about vomit itself. I wasn't scared of sick. And this lady, she did help me kind of really finally realise, oh yeah, it's really not about vomit, because I can watch that video and not feel gross. And so Beth, she helped a bit. But I just kind of mucked around with her, and because I was relapsing at the time, I was like, oh, well, my brain's not really working, so don't care. And so then I went back to, I was with Sedcast still, and they were lovely, but my nurse just kind of knew that I was pissing about with her. And I used to go out with my community worker, and we'd have lunch and stuff, but I'd kind of run around like a crazy person in the morning in order so that I could have lunch with her, and she'd be like, well done Daisy, like you had a baked potato, and I'd be like, yeah, but I also ran a marathon this morning. So didn't really work. And then I was also working kind of, I was working at a garden centre, and it was just an excuse for me to exercise, and I kind of took over my life. I'd take on so many extra hours. I hated my job, it was the worst job I've ever had. The people were lovely though, and I ran myself into the ground, basically. I couldn't cope anymore again, and ended up in hospital again. So I had another admission. My first admission, by the way, was 4 months and a bit. And the second admission, I was completely mental, and I'm embarrassed at some of the things that I used to do in hospital. And my parents said that when I actually got admitted, they were like, okay, whew, we don't have to deal with you anymore. And then when they actually started to come to see me, because they had to wait a bit because I was so crazy, they came to see me, and my dad said that I looked worse. I was getting worse being in hospital because nothing was happening. I was so malnourished that all I could think about was how could I run around my room that was kind of like this big to burn off that one pea that I ate. It was horrible. My whole life revolved around OCD and exercise and anxiety and emetophobia, and I had so many routines that I couldn't even begin to think about getting rid of it, and I had resigned myself to a life of illness, and I was kind of told that by professionals as well, that you're a chronic anorexic, Daisy, you're never going to get better, like your OCD is so bad, you're too severe for our doctors, and it was disheartening, and because I was in such a low place, I would believe them, and I told my parents that this is it, this is my life now forever, I'm just going to be in and out of hospital for the rest of my life, and I don't care. That didn't last, obviously, but I had more CBT, which was also useless. I had CRT as well, cognitive remediation therapy. Actually, the hospital that I was at is where they made it up. It was interesting, but I found it fun, and I don't think therapy is supposed to be fun. I used to like the brain games, and because I was so competitive and such a perfectionist, I'd be like, right, well, I have to get 100% every single time. And I didn't see it as a therapy. I saw it as a game with myself, and how can I be the best at this therapy without it working. And I could get around everything. I was kind of like, yeah, okay, I understand that I need a new neural pathway there, but like I like my original one, so I'm going to keep it. And it just made me better at faking, kind of getting better. I had another therapist as well. I also did DBT, group therapy, which was just shit, because I don't want everyone to know what I'm thinking. And everyone just complains. And so I had a therapist that, well, my original therapist for my first admission suddenly disappeared when I got to my second admission. I was like, right, okay. Ah! And this new therapist was quite newly qualified. I hate to say, but I didn't like his shoes, so I knew I wasn't going to like him. And I had my first session with him, and I was like, right, okay, like it's going to work. I'm ready, I can do this. And then I was like, oh God, no, I can't. He didn't know what emetophobia was, didn't actually know what locus of control was, didn't know anything about kind of self-esteem affecting my anxiety. He was, and I used to dread going to my sessions, and I'd pretend that I was ill so I couldn't go, and I'd lock myself in my room and pretend that I was dead. And basically, I ended up getting accused of bullying him. Because I refused to go to my sessions, and other people may have heard me saying that. And he got me in trouble, and I had to go and see the manager of the ward, and we had a meeting, and she told me that I had to have therapy, otherwise why was I there? And I was like, well, you can discharge me, I don't really care, you're not helping me. And I handle myself really well because I read the notes of the meeting that I wasn't supposed to. And it said that I was very assertive and I knew what I wanted, and basically the doctor just couldn't handle me, and that was it. Like I just stopped having therapy. So I was in a hospital for mental illness and I wasn't having any therapy at all. And I was so angry, and I was on weekend leave once and I went, fuck it, I'm going to write to Rob, I'm going to do it. And it took me ages to write this really long email, kind of begging for help and be like, Rob, I don't know what to do, like I want to be better but I'm stuck and my therapist is rubbish, and kind of grovelling. And I didn't expect to hear back from it, so I kind of went back. I was still in hospital, and my primary nurses, so if they watch this, because I email them occasionally being like, look how great I am, and they were amazing. My primary nurses were brilliant. They never once gave up on me, and they did help. They gave me specific OCD plans and stuff to reduce my exercise, and I am very grateful for them. They did help me a lot, but they weren't Thrive. And so one day I was at home again, and I got an email back from Rob. I was like, oh my god, he replied, because like he's kind of famous. and I got it, and I saw that it said, I'm not seeing clients at the moment, and I was like, no, I'm gonna be ill forever. Blah. And then I carried on reading after I'd finished freaking out, and it said, but I'll forward your email to James. And I was like, well, that's not going to be as good as Rob. And I was thinking, I said to my parents, I was like, I bet he's never going to email me, and James is never going to read my email. This is shit. Blah. My life is ruined. I'm always going to be like this. And then about 2 minutes later, I got an email from James. And I was like, oh, whoops. And it was the loveliest email I've ever got. And it was so kind of heartfelt, and just, I felt, for once, actually, this could be possible. And it was the first time I've also ever heard someone say full recovery, which is hilarious, seeing as how many people I've seen about recovery. They've never said full recovery. And I read it and I thought, actually, this might work for me. What? And it was nice. It was having someone say, no, this isn't your lot. You can do way better than this. And so I booked my session, and I went up to Cambridge on weekend leave secretly because I didn't want to tell the NHS that I was getting other treatment, and got my dad to drive me up to Cambridge from where was I, Croydon, and went to meet James, and I freaked out on the way, and I was like, oh my god, I think I'm going to be sick. No, I'm not. I had to have lunch as well when we were out, and my dad was like, we need to buy lunch. I was like, but I don't know any of the places in Cambridge and they might make me ill. And I was like, oh god, I can't do this anymore. So we went to see James, and I met James, and I had a really good kind of intro session, and I was like, right, Daisy, you're gonna like throw yourself into this. You're gonna do it. You're gonna love it. And I went every week, I think for 6 weeks, I think it was. And every single week something was different with me. Something was better, and even though if I could have a bad week, and instead of what I would previously do was I'd have a bad week, and then I'd have another bad week and another one, because I'd be thinking about all the bad weeks I'd had previously. And what would happen is that I'd have a few kind of slip-ups in the week, and then when James would ask me how my week was going, I'd be like, it's okay, like it's not awful, and then I'd be like, actually no, I had a good week, like I did this, and I could list all these positive things, where previously I never would have been able to do that. I only would have told you about the bad things, and even the bad things, like they weren't at the forefront of my mind anymore, because suddenly I was having to look at my positive. Oh yeah, can you see my orange dot on everything I own? It's so annoying. And my family hate me because they're all over the house, and so I was being a lot more positive. And what I found helpful about Thrive was that the tests were almost tangible. Like I could see something go down every single week. I could cross something off the locus of control test every single week, and I felt like empowered by it, because normally with therapy it's like, look how shit you are, like you're so bad, like look at all these bad things you do. Whereas with Thrive it's like, well hey, another one off, next thing, let's go, keep going. And also because it was so dynamic, I couldn't get bored and I couldn't get around something, and it would keep me engaged the whole time. I was never once thinking in my sessions, I'm so bored, like I really want this to over. My session would finish, I'd be like, wait, what? And I swear I only got here like 2 minutes ago. I don't really know if I should have enjoyed it so much. I feel a bit weird, like, like oh yeah, this is great. And also what I also found incredibly helpful was that everything was backed up with science. And one of my primary nurses once helped me by, I did some pretty grim exposure therapy in hospital, and one of them involved kind of rubbing my hands all over the bathroom, in the toilets, and like around the floor, rolling on the floor, that was one. My therapist rolled on the floor in front of me and I was like, no, so just kind of walked whatever, exposure therapy, what a joke. So I was doing this exposure thing and I was freaking out, and my nurse was like, what do they say in Thrive? You know, you're not going to believe your thoughts anymore, your thoughts aren't real. And we came up with this kind of mantra thing, which was, I believe in fact, not fiction. And that's become a really helpful kind of thing for me now. And also because I like science, I like proof. Perfectionist, obsessive. I liked being able to read the articles that had been kind of noted in the book, and I liked having proof. And other therapy didn't have proof. It had the whole like, some people it kind of works for, and they get, you know, moderate success. Whereas Thrive is like, everyone does great, and like everyone's brilliant, blah. And I just kind of got like caught up in it. I also, funny story, I used to have to tell people that I wasn't joining a cult. I don't know what to think about that. I also found the dream technique one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to me, because I'm a bit of a, I don't know, dramatist.
You don't say it.
I swear I'm not normally like this. My parents and Claire, actually, I just got back from a holiday with Claire, which I'd never thought I'd go on. I went to Sardinia and I ate anything that was thrown at me, and it was grand, and I had a great time. And I went on the plane for the first time in a bazillion years. And anyway, when I was there, I had a few blips, and I told Claire, I was like, Claire, I'm going to do the dream technique, I'm going to do it. And so I am incredibly over-animated when I do it, because otherwise I won't take it seriously. I have to really throw myself into it. And my parents know my like escape kind of position now, and so I kind of stick my hands in the air and I do this, because it's the only thing that I can do and keep talking, and I say it out loud, and I get really like G'd up about it. I'm like, Daisy, yeah, you're great, like you're amazing, I'm so proud of you, well done, like this is so good. And it does really help. My anxiety just goes down, because normally everyone's taking the piss out of me when I'm doing it. And making it funny made it easier. I do it, it's kind of self-deprecating, whatever. And also another thing about Thrive was looking at language. I'd never thought about how my spoken language affected my mental health, and I think you can probably tell I still use quite catastrophic language. I use big emotional words, and my parents now try and like slap me out of it when I say grim or disgusting or gross, because gross is like my favourite word. But now I can say it and be like, wait, it's not gross, it's unpleasant. So I'm still working on stuff. I still feel like a newbie here. And next page. I was going to say as well, Thrive is not stupid. It's not for stupid people. And I liked that I was told that I was intelligent, because it kind of made me go, oh yeah, Daisy, you are actually intelligent. You've done quite a few things in your life. Well done. And I liked that it was kind of, it always built you up. It didn't push you back down again. There was nothing angry about it. There was no blame put on you in Thrive. It was all, it's not your fault. It's not your mum's fault. It's not your dad's fault. And I think that was really good, because I also, my parents have been threatened by social services quite a few times, because apparently they were abusing me because they were being emotionally abusive. But that was because my therapy was telling them that I was a bad child, blah, blah, blah. So they liked that no one was being blamed, because they were going, whew, there's no social services involved. I also found the significant other thing very helpful, and what's different about me is that my dad is my significant other. He is the one, listen, Dad. I'm trying to make him do Thrive, but he will not do it. And he's had his own mental health problems, but he had a breakdown when I was very young, and he is my one colluder. He will let me get away with things, and since doing Thrive, I have now become the most horrible daughter to my dad. So I'll be like, Dad, no, don't do that. That's bad. You're making me worse. Trying to like guilt trip him into doing it, but it's not worked yet. So I'm hoping that now I've exposed him here, he'll be like, oh shit, I'm gonna change my life a little bit. But yeah, I wanted to say that I don't think it would have worked for me if I hadn't have thrown myself into it the way I did. Because if I had started doing it maybe 3 weeks before I went to James, I still would have been like, no, but I'm still gonna go running this afternoon because like I love running. But actually, when I started it, I was like, wait, no, Daisy, you have a 20-minute pass to walk slowly. You're not going to abuse it, because every time you do something that is your eating disorder or your phobia is telling you, you're making it stronger. I'm giving the strength away from myself. I'm giving it to something else to make my life shitter. So what I wanted to do was take everything back and be like, no, I want the power. I've got the power to be better than this. And I found that really did helpful. In life, I proved to myself only ever gets better once you start working on it, and once you stop life happening to you and you start, giving to life, it's way better. But now I'm thriving now, but I'm still seeing the SEDCAS people because they're monitoring me to get to a healthy weight for the first time in my life, which is terrifying. But I am actually looking forward to it. Me and Claire are both talking about how we're excited now about becoming healthy and being able to do things for fun rather than because of it's fueled by an eating disorder. So I'm glad for them because they help me move forward, and they actually really like Thrive. My nurse thinks it's brilliant, and every time she sees my phone, because I have a little orange sticker, she's like, guys, positive thought, come on. And I'm like, oh, God, I wish I'd never told you this. And she's really good, my nurse, and I'm actually due to be discharged probably in September because I'm going to university, 2 years late. But I got in somehow, I got some A-levels, and I'm going to All Holloway to study music. I'm great. I'm also working, and I'm actually working for the fun of it, and hilariously my job literally involves me shoveling horse poo all day. So I am covered in mud, dirt, gross things, and not gross, sorry, unpleasantness. And I love my job. I'm a groom for a carriage horse company, and I do competitions with them, and I get to wear a top hat and tails. Great. And I look a bit like a boy though. Too much hair has to go in the top hat. And I never would have thought that I would have been able to work in such a dirty environment. And also my boss will come down and be like, Daisy, I've got some cookies, here, eat them, but don't wash your hands first. I'll be like, oh God, okay. And so I kind of have this ability, because they didn't know that I was crazy when I started. And it's kind of come out now because they know that I'm here today, because I actually have a show tomorrow that I need to go to. And they kind of, it was nice being normal around them to start with, but now they know I'm nuts, I can kind of joke about it a bit more. So that's my work, I love it. It's a bit more personal now. I'm actually able to have relationships with people, not only friends, but I've actually recently, the first date I went on with my now girlfriend was in a bit of a gross looking cafe, and all the food was like out in the open, and they didn't have a measuring thing, they just kind of did it. And I was like, I want to ask how long that cake's been out, and like if anyone's licked it or whatever. And it was all mishmashed old cutlery and stuff, and it had cracks in it, and I was like, oh my God, I bet there's loads of germs in it. But then, because I wanted to be cool in front of this girl, I was like, yeah, it's fine, I'll get like a huge piece of cake. And then actually, when I did it, I was like, actually this is great, like I'm having a marvellous time, and I'm coming across so well. So normal. I mean, now she knows I'm like bananas, but she's still with me. I think I mentioned as well, I've been on holiday, which has been marvellous. As I said, I had a few blips, and I'm not saying now that I'm 100% cured, because I don't believe in perfectionism anymore. I would say I bounce around between 85 and 95% to where I want to be, and on my days when I'm at 85%, I'm like, Mum, my life is over. And I'm like, wait, hang on, Daisy, no, it's not. You're not in hospital, you're having lunch, and you're going to go out again later, and like, you're not going to think about this. My blips don't last very long. I don't let them affect me anymore. My blips are not such a negative impact. It's more just kind of, it's more of a time for me to see how far I've come instead of what I've done wrong. And it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to refocus. I'm going to get back into this, gain my perspective, and come back to thrive. And I must say that it has completely changed my life. And before Thrive, I would have been described as a boring person, and people pitied me and felt sorry for me because I couldn't do anything. And now I'd say I'm such a risk taker now, which my driving teacher hates. he said to me, he was like, yeah, young people these days are so risky. And I was like, oh my God, someone called me risky. Like, I'm normal. And so that's, you know, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, whether my driving teacher's concerned about me driving, but I can actually live life now, and without Thrive, I'd still probably be in hospital, running around my room, cleaning my cutlery, trying to like scrub myself in bleach, and I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have stayed in some shitty hotel down the road and got lost a million times, and I wouldn't have eaten at a service station, and I wouldn't be here talking without like shaking, even though I've always been kind of fond of talking about myself, if you can tell. Even though I had such low self-esteem, I thought no one cared. I'd be like, but still, I'll tell you my life story, just so you can feel sorry for me. So I have chosen life now because of Thrive, and I know what I want, and I'm in control of it now, and I can see my thoughts, I can hear my thoughts and be like, nah, bollocks, that's limiting. Like I don't want to be in this limiting place anymore. I want to be in this open zone, and I just want to keep going. So like I'm still on my journey. James drew me a thing of a trip to Cambridge to my house, and being like, you're still on the M11 and the M25 and all the other ones in between, but you're not quite there yet. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it takes either. It just matters that I'm always moving forward, and it doesn't matter if I take a trip off to a service station briefly and freak out. As long as I come back and I'm going the right way, I don't care. My life is so great now. This is so vain, but I love it, and I can't thank Thrive enough. And I feel like I've talked quite a lot because my mouth is really dry. So I have no idea what else I've been saying. I've kind of just blitzed through it. But thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.